This settlement should serve as a warning to other companies that may not yet take the employment verification process seriously or provide the attention it warrants. And this was by the special agent. They are telling us, I'm starting to have some enforcement teeth to it, and they're starting to have a new MOU and have more penalties for misusing E-Verify, for not using it properly. There's photo matching that's now available. U.S. passports will roll out soon, and there's a lot of worker protection going on with E-Verify as a result of concerns about that. So those are very important things going on in enforcement. Also, there's trends that each of the states are creating their own laws in immigration and their own enforcement rules, which is making it even more difficult for a company doing business just in one country, like the United States. And that they have to look at different rules in different states as they onboard people, as they bring people around. We've worked with large companies who bring people in from India. When do you E-Verify? When do you abide by a state rule? Is it if the person touches the state? Are they really hired in the state? If they're hired here and they move there, what are the enforcement rules? There's a lot of questions that relate to sending people abroad and how the state rules affect the people that may have already been hired but are simply being transferred there. The Supreme Court is going to hear cases where there's a challenge. Should the federal government or the state have those rules? But in the meantime, you as employers need to navigate the complexity of those enforcement issues. There's also fraud detection and national security visits. There's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of need for this going on, but you need to be prepared. You need to make sure your employees know what to have prepared. We've had some reports where the company may have moved, but they didn't update the government, and petitions were revoked because the government thought they didn't exist when they went to go visit their site. So there's a lot of issues relating to fraud detection, and I'll leave some of that for the panel to talk about. So I think as we move to go back and sit down and discuss with the panel, what are the recommendations that we have? What are some things that companies can do? I'll run through this quickly, and then I think the rest of the panel members have a lot of good thoughts about that. Adopt immigration compliance policies. Build internal policies for recruitment, monitoring, tracking. A lot of you have this, but go back and look at it. Make sure you're updating it based on a lot of the new compliance rules. Appoint a corporate compliance officer. Have some internal compliance manuals prepared, and make sure that it gets disseminated so people have access to that. Have a global immigration compliance program. Educate the key players. Make sure managers know why somebody shouldn't go to some place before they're authorized to work, what the consequences are so that they can balance those things. And plan strategically for the destination, because at the end of the day, we know business drives why we're here. We have to make it possible for business to continue to go. Despite all of the pitfalls we have here, we have to be able to navigate that way and help business to continue to work. So with that,
we're trying to get in a structure of a make-or-do kind of thing where the work is handled by the immigration department, whereas the work is handled by the HR department, but the responsibility to overcheck and ensure compliance rests with the immigration department. So there is one team overlooking the work of the other. And one thing we're trying to move to is an area where we're trying to see if setting up a separate compliance cell for various other parameters included, would that be a lot more dedicated focus in this area. While I thought I'd tap on the expertise of Cynthia and Rami on the particular point. Well, I'm sure there's a question a lot of people in the audience have. Are there some extra things or something specific which companies which have more than 15% of the workers on H1 or H1B dependent employers, or a consolidated number of 50% on H&L, are they specially in focus, or are there things they need to do differently to be, or the threshold much higher for them? Is it that way?
Actually, I like your idea of an independent objective. department. Sorry, Cynthia. I think having sometimes there are internal conflicts, and there's a lot of pressure to drive profit. Sometimes you need an outside break or an independent break or department to be with it. But I think that there's so many circumstances that may impact it. Of course, the economy and the unemployment rate's high, but I personally don't see the likelihood of CIR in the next 2 years, maybe after the next presidential election. Hopefully, when the economy and the unemployment rate goes down, I think it'd be political suicide for any politician at this point in time to try to suggest it. And if they want to keep their office or their job, I don't really see much of it. I don't know if I can answer your question exactly, but I was beginning to look from a black perspective, was beginning to see change. I believe absolutely. I think the Grassley-Durbin bill was looking to actually prohibit any company from filing any H-1s or Ls if 50% of your workforce is basically are non-immigrants or foreign workers. And 2 years ago, I would have probably said, oh God, that's probably never going to go through. But now, I mean, who would have imagined that they could increase the fee by $2,000? And it happened so quickly. Quite remarkable what Schumer had done. I think Fox is going to talk about that later.
Just really quickly, I think we need to protect the country from itself. Because I think that in a downturn, the economic downturn, there's going to be some rash decisions made. Things will go through Congress, especially with the recent elections in the way. And then they're going to be stuck with some really bad rules that will help the United States decline economically and not be a leader. And I think we need to be there to help protect it from itself, because we want the U.S. to continue to be able to be part of the world economy and not shut itself off like it could potentially. Congress and other folks to understand that better. I think it's going to be what you all have to do. A lot of education, a lot of serious education, and legitimate cases, because you want to be really careful that nobody's taking bad cases for it. It will taint everybody.
Because the government also expects them to do it, because they're liable now. You know, they're going to hold these guys accountable.
Some of you at least focus basically on day-to-day immigration task. I think it is something that you want to go back, take to your management, and talk about immigration compliance issues. It is not just the visa expiration or passport expiration. It is beyond that. Probably the presentation that Cynthia did, it basically opens the eye. And also throughout the day, work to focus more on compliance. I think this is what you would like to take it back to your management and try to educate them and explain that immigration compliance, the work that you do is not just getting the visa done. It is beyond. So it's very important for you to make some notes, take it back, and educate your management so they do understand. And thank you, Rami and Cynthia and Praveen. Okay.
Sure, right ahead.
My name is Stephanie Shakeman from Wipro, and it's a combination of a point that Rami made about management and large corporations not being able to keep the overview on what's going on down at the field level, and what Cynthia mentioned about an increase in scrutinization on the parts of agencies in the United States, but also in country, say here in India. Are there indicators, are there common indicators that people working in is coming under closer scrutiny? How do you educate the senior management to take these indicators seriously? And then once you start seeing an increase in refusals of work permit applications, visas, denials at port of entry, and so forth, is there some recommendation that you have how to work with these huge agencies as partners to change your course of action to be more in compliance before the company is in serious trouble?